The starship horizon floated in the darkness of space like a small metal island. Around it, the stars burned cold and distant. Inside the ship, humans lived their daily lives. Some worked, some slept, some dreamed of home. Commander Park Ho stood on the bridge with his hands behind his back. He was a tall man with gray hair and calm eyes. He had served in the Korean Space Navy for 30 years. He had seen many strange things in the galaxy, but today something new was happening. The communication screen flickered to life. A face appeared. It was not a human face. The skin was dark blue, almost purple. The eyes were large and yellow, like the eyes of a cat. The mouth was wide with sharp teeth. They were one of the most powerful species in this part of the galaxy. "Human Commander," they said. His voice was deep and rough. "I am War Chief Dorn of the Empire." Ho nodded slowly. "I am Commander Park Ho of Earth. What do you want?" Dorn made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Your ship is in our space. This star system belongs to the Empire. You must leave or face the consequences." Ho did not move. His face showed nothing. "This star system is neutral territory. Our records show no claim here." "Your records are wrong," Dorn said. "We claimed this system 300 cycles ago, before your species even left your little planet." The bridge was quiet. The other officers watched their commander. Lieutenant Bin, the weapons officer, put her hand near the control panel. She was young and quick. If there was going to be a fight, she was ready. But Ho raised his hand slightly. "Not yet." "War Chief Dorn," Ho said calmly, "the Galactic Council recognizes this system as neutral. If you have a dispute, you should bring it to them." Dorn leaned forward. His yellow eyes burned with anger. "The do not answer to the Council. We answer only to strength, and humans are weak. Everyone knows this." Ho's lips twitched. It was almost a smile. "Is that what everyone knows?" "Your species is young," Dorn continued. "You have only been in space for 200 of your years. They have ruled the stars for 10,000 cycles. You are children playing in the darkness." The officers on the bridge shifted uncomfortably, but Ho remained still. "Perhaps you are right," Ho said. "Perhaps we are young, but children learn fast." Dorn slammed his fist against something off-screen. "Enough talk. I will give you a choice, human. We can destroy your ship right now. My fleet has 15 warships. You have one. The battle would last less than a minute." He paused, his yellow eyes narrowed. "Or," Dorn continued, "we can settle this in the old way, the honorable way, a contest of skill." Ho raised an eyebrow. "What kind of contest?" "Marksmanship," Dorn said. The word came out like a hiss. "The value precision above all things. A true warrior can hit any target at any distance. I have never missed a shot in 300 cycles. Not once." The bridge was silent. 300 cycles. That was longer than most humans lived. "If your champion defeats me," Dorn said, "we will leave this system. We will never bother your ship again. We will even speak to the Council about your species. Perhaps humans deserve more respect than we thought." "And if your champion wins?" Ho asked. Dorn showed his teeth. "Then your ship belongs to us. Your crew becomes our prisoners, and Earth learns that they are not to be challenged." Lieutenant Bin stepped forward. "Commander, this is a trap. We cannot trust them." Ho nodded slowly. "Perhaps, but if we refuse, they will attack anyway. 15 ships against one. Our people will die." He looked at the screen. "At least this way we have a chance." Dorn laughed. It was an ugly sound. "A small chance, human. A very small chance. My skills are known across the galaxy. I have killed champions from 100 worlds. Your best shooter will fall like all the others." "When?" Ho asked simply. "Tomorrow, standard galactic time. We will meet on the third moon of this system. Bring your champion." Dorn leaned closer to the screen. "Bring your best soldier, your finest warrior, the human who never misses." Ho nodded. "We will be there." The screen went dark. Immediately, the bridge erupted in noise. Officers talked over each other. Some were angry, some were scared. This was madness. How could they compete against a war chief? Lieutenant approached the commander. "Sir, who will we send? Sergeant Wu is our best marksman, but he is recovering from surgery. Private Dong Ho is good, but he is young and nervous. Against a war chief." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Ho turned away from the screen. He walked slowly across the bridge, his boots clicking against the metal floor. He stopped at the window and looked out at the stars. "Tell me, Lieutenant," he said quietly, "how many civilians do we have on this ship?" Bin blinked. "Civilians, sir, about 200. Scientists, engineers, families. Why?" Ho did not answer immediately. He watched the stars. Somewhere out there, 15 warships waited. Somewhere out there, a war chief who had never missed was preparing for tomorrow. "Sir," pressed, "why do you ask about the civilians?" Ho turned around. There was a strange light in his eyes. It was not fear. It was not worry. If anything, it looked like amusement. "Because, Lieutenant," he said, "I do not think we need a soldier for this contest." Stared at him. "Sir, I do not understand." Ho smiled. It was a real smile this time. They think they know humans. They think our warriors are dangerous and our civilians are weak. They think shooting is only for soldiers. He walked back toward the command chair. "They do not understand," he continued. "On Earth, shooting is not just for war. It is a sport, a hobby, a tradition. Grandmothers shoot, children shoot, farmers and teachers and shopkeepers shoot." His eyes widened. She was beginning to understand. "They want our best soldier." Ho sat down in his chair. "No, they asked for our best marksman, and on a human ship that could be anyone." He pressed a button on his chair. "Attention, all personnel," his voice echoed through the ship. "This is Commander Park. Tomorrow, we face a challenge that will determine the fate of our ship. I need volunteers. If you have any experience with shooting, please report to the main hall in 1 hour." He released the button. Lieutenant was still staring at him. "Sir, are you serious? You want to send a civilian against a war chief?" Ho leaned back in his chair. "I want to send the right person, Lieutenant. Soldier or civilian, it does not matter. What matters is skill. And I have a feeling our friend Dorn is about to learn something important about humans." "What is that, sir?" Ho looked at the dark screen where the space had been. "That we are all dangerous." 1 hour later, Commander Park Ho walked into the main hall of the Horizon. He stopped at the door and looked around. His eyes moved slowly across the room. There were at least 60 people waiting for him. Some wore military uniforms. These were the soldiers, the security officers, the trained fighters of the ship. They stood straight and tall, their faces serious. But most of the people in the room were not soldiers. They wore simple clothes, work clothes. Some had gray hair, some were young. There was a man in a chef's uniform, a woman in a doctor's coat, a teenager still holding a tablet from her studies. Lieutenant Bin stood beside the commander. She looked worried. "Sir," she whispered, "I still think we should choose from our military personnel. Sergeant Wu says he can fight even with his injury." Ho shook his head. "I already spoke to the doctor. Wu's hand shakes. He cannot hold a weapon steady right now." "Then Private Dong Ho, or Corporal, they are both excellent shots." "They are good," Ho agreed. "But good might not be enough against a war chief." He walked forward into the room. The crowd parted to let him through. Everyone watched him with nervous eyes. "Thank you all for coming," Ho said loudly. "I know this is strange, I know you have questions, but first I need to know something." He looked around the room. "How many of you have shot a weapon before?" Almost every hand went up. Ho nodded. This was expected. Shooting sports were popular on Earth. Many countries had long traditions of marksmanship. Korea was one of them. "How many of you have competed in shooting competitions?" About half the hands stayed up. How many of you have won medals or awards? 20 hands remained. Bin made a small sound of surprise. 20 people, 20 civilians who had won awards for shooting, on one ship. Ho walked among them. He stopped in front of a middle-aged man with thick arms and rough hands. What is your name? Sir, I work in engineering. What is your shooting background? Straightened up proudly. I was Army for 10 years, sir. Then I became an engineer, but I still shoot. I won the Seoul City Championship twice. Ho nodded. Good, stay. He moved to the next person, a young woman with short hair and bright eyes. Name? Sir, I'm a botanist. I study plants. And you're shooting? Smiled. My father was a hunter. He taught me to shoot when I was 6 years old. I competed in university. I was second in the national championships 3 years ago. Second place. I sneezed during my last shot, admitted. It was very annoying. Some people in the crowd laughed. Even Ho smiled. Stay, he said. He continued through the crowd. He found a retired pilot who had won military shooting awards, a teacher who had been on the Olympic training team, a cook who had grown up on a farm shooting birds. But then he stopped. At the back of the room, sitting quietly on a chair, was an old woman. She had gray hair tied back in a simple style. Her face was lined with age, but her eyes were sharp and clear. She wore a plain blue dress and comfortable shoes. She looked like someone's grandmother. Ho walked toward her. The crowd moved aside. He said, what is your name? The old woman stood up slowly. She was short, barely reaching Ho's shoulder. My name is Hana, Commander. What do you do on this ship, Hana? Nothing important, sir. I was a florist back in. I grew flowers. I came on this ship to be with my daughter and her family. Bin stepped forward. Sir, surely we should focus on the younger candidates. A marksmanship contest requires steady hands and good eyes and... Lieutenant Ho raised his hand. Let her speak. He looked at the old woman. Hana, do you have experience with shooting? Hana's lips curved into a small smile. Some, Commander. Tell me. Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke in a calm, steady voice. My grandfather was a soldier in the old wars. When he was too old to fight, he came home to our village. He had nothing left except his rifle and his memories. She paused. He taught me to shoot when I was 9 years old. He said a woman should know how to defend herself. He said the world was dangerous. And you learned? I learned, Hana nodded. By the time I was 12, I could hit a bird in flight. By 15, I was competing. I won the national championship 4 times. Then I got married, had children, opened my flower shop. She shrugged. Life happened. I stopped competing, but I never stopped shooting. Every Sunday I went to the range. For 50 years I went to the range. The room was completely silent. Ho stared at the old woman. You won the national championship 4 times. Yes, Commander. In what years? 2015, 2016, 2018, and 2019. I missed 2017 because my husband was sick. Bin quickly checked her tablet. Her eyes went wide. Sir, she is telling the truth. 4 national championships. She also won silver at the Asian Games in 2018. Ho nodded slowly. Why did you stop competing? I was getting old, Hana said simply. The young ones were faster, more aggressive, but that does not mean they were better. What do you mean? Hana looked at him with those sharp, clear eyes. Shooting is not about speed, Commander. It is about control, about patience, about waiting for the right moment and then doing exactly what you have done 10,000 times before. She raised her hand. It was perfectly steady, not even a small shake. Young people think they are invincible. They rush. They try to impress. But shooting is not about showing off. It is about doing one thing, one simple thing perfectly. Ho was quiet for a long moment. Then he turned to the rest of the room. I have made my decision. Lieutenant stepped forward. Sir, wait, we should test everyone. We should hold a competition to find our best. There is no time, Ho said. The contest is tomorrow. He looked at Hana. Will you represent humanity in this contest? Hana was silent. She looked at the faces around her. Young soldiers, strong engineers, smart scientists, all of them were watching her. Commander, she said slowly, I am 73 years old. I am a florist. I have not competed in 20 years. That is not what I asked. Hana took a deep breath. Then she straightened her back. For a moment she did not look like an old grandmother. She looked like something else, something harder, something dangerous. Yes, she said, I will do it. Some of the soldiers in the room exchanged looks. Was the commander serious, sending an old woman against a war chief? But Ho saw something they did not see. He saw the steadiness in her hands, the clarity in her eyes, the absolute calm in her voice. This was not just an old woman. This was a master. Good, Ho said. Get some rest. Tomorrow we show what humans can do. Hana nodded. She walked toward the door, her steps slow but sure. As she passed Lieutenant, she stopped. Do not worry, young one, Hana said quietly. I have been shooting for 64 years. I have never missed when it mattered. Then she walked out of the room. Watched her go, then she looked at Commander Ho. Sir, she said, I hope you know what you are doing. Ho smiled. So do I, Lieutenant, so do I. But deep in his heart, he was not worried. He had seen many shooters in his life. He knew the difference between someone who was good and someone who was truly great. Hana was great. Tomorrow they would learn a lesson about Earth. They would learn that on humanity's home world, danger did not just come from soldiers. It came from grandmothers, from farmers, from florists who had spent 64 years doing one thing perfectly. The thought they knew about marksmanship. They were wrong. The morning came too quickly. Hana woke up in her small room on the horizon. For a moment, she lay still in the darkness, listening to the hum of the ship around her. Somewhere outside, the stars continued their endless dance. Somewhere outside, they were waiting. She got up slowly. Her bones ached a little, as they always did these days, but her mind was clear and her heart was steady. She had not slept much, not because she was afraid. She had spent the night remembering her grandfather's face, remembering the weight of her first rifle, remembering the sound of a target being struck perfectly. 64 years of memories. Hana walked to the small mirror in her room. An old woman looked back at her, gray hair, wrinkled skin, eyes that had seen 7 decades of life. But those eyes were still sharp, still clear, still ready. One more time, she whispered to herself. One more time. There was a knock at the door. Hana opened it to find her daughter standing in the hallway. Was 45 years old, a doctor on the horizon. Her face was pale with worry. Mother said, you do not have to do this. There must be someone else. Hana smiled and took her daughter's hand. There is no one else who can do it better. But you are. Old, Hana finished. Yes, I am old, but being old does not mean being weak. It means I have had more time to practice. His eyes filled with tears. If something happens to you. Nothing will happen to me. Hana squeezed her daughter's hand. I have been shooting since before you were born. I have been shooting since before your father was born. Do you know how many shots I have taken in my life? Shook her head. I counted once, Hana said. About 2 million shots, each one teaching me something, each one making me better. She let go of her daughter's hand and walked past her into the hallway. They have ruled the stars for 10,000 years, Hana continued. But they have not spent 64 years doing one single thing. They have fought wars. They have built empires. They have conquered worlds. She turned and looked at. I have grown flowers and shot targets. That is all I have done. and I have done both of them perfectly. The shuttle took Hana, Commander Ho, and a small team down to the third moon. It was a gray, rocky place with thin air and low gravity, perfect for a shooting contest. They had already arrived. Their shuttles were large and black, covered in weapons. Their soldiers stood in neat rows, their purple skin dark under the alien sun. They looked like statues made of violence. In the center of them stood War Chief Dorn. He was taller than any human. His body was thick with muscle. His yellow eyes burned with confidence. In his hands he held a long rifle made of dark metal. It looked like it had killed many things. When Ho's shuttle landed, Dorn walked forward. His soldiers parted to let him through. "Human Commander," Dorn said, "you came, I am surprised. I thought your species would run." Ho stepped out of the shuttle. "We do not run from challenges." "Where is your champion?" Dorn looked around at the small human group. His eyes passed over the soldiers, over Lieutenant, over the engineers who had come to watch. Then his eyes found Hana. He stared at her for a long moment. Then he made that ugly laughing sound. "Is this a joke?" Dorn pointed at Hana. "You bring an elder to fight me. Is this how humans treat their old ones, sending them to die?" Hana said nothing. She stood quietly, her hands at her sides. Ho smiled. "This is Hana, she is our champion." The soldiers began to laugh. The sound was harsh and cruel, like rocks grinding together. They pointed at Hana. They made insulting gestures. Dorn walked closer to Hana. He towered over her. His shadow covered her completely. "Old woman," he said, "do you know who I am?" Hana looked up at him. Her face showed nothing. "You are Dorn," she said, "War Chief of the. You have never missed a shot in 300 cycles." "That is right." Dorn leaned down until his face was close to hers. "And you, what are you? A soldier, a warrior?" "No," Hana said calmly, "I am a florist." The laughter grew louder. They could not believe it. This was the human champion, a tiny old woman who grew flowers. Dorn turned to Ho. "Commander, this is an insult. If you send this elder to face me, I will kill her. The contest is to the death if needed. Do you understand?" "The contest is to the best score," Ho said. "Not to the death. Those were your own rules." Dorn's eyes narrowed. "Yes, but accidents happen, an old woman handling a weapon. Things can go wrong." "I think Hana can handle a weapon well enough," Ho said. Dorn snorted. He turned back to Hana. "Why are you here, old one? Why did you agree to this? You must know you cannot win." Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she spoke in that calm, steady voice. "When I was 9 years old, my grandfather gave me a rifle. He told me to shoot a can that was 50 meters away. I missed." Dorn raised an eyebrow. "So you started with failure. That is the human story." "He made me try again," Hana continued, ignoring him. "I missed again. He made me try again, and again, and again. For 3 hours I tried, my arms hurt, my eyes hurt, but he did not let me stop." She looked at Dorn with those sharp eyes. "Finally, I hit the can, and my grandfather said something I have never forgotten. He said, 'Now do it again. Do it until you cannot miss. Do it until hitting is easier than breathing.'" Dorn was silent. "That was 64 years ago," Hana said. "I have been shooting every week since then. I have shot in rain and snow and burning heat. I have shot when I was happy and when I was sad. I have shot when my husband died and when my children were born." She raised her hand, completely steady. "I am here, War Chief, because shooting is not something I do. It is something I am. You have 300 cycles of experience. I have 64 years of devotion. We will see which one matters more." The laughter had stopped. The soldiers watched the old woman with something new in their eyes. Not respect, not yet, but something close to curiosity. Dorn stood up straight. He looked at Hana for a long time. "Very well," he said finally. "We will see what devotion can do against perfection." He turned and walked toward the shooting range that his soldiers had prepared. Lieutenant came up beside Hana. That was impressive, she said quietly, but he is still a war chief, 300 cycles. Hana smiled. On Earth there is a saying, it does not matter how long you have been doing something, what matters is how you do it. She walked toward the range. Behind her, Commander Ho watched with careful eyes. He had chosen well. He could feel it. This old woman, this florist was about to show the galaxy what humans could do. Not soldiers, not warriors, just ordinary people who had spent their lives doing one thing perfectly. They had no idea what was coming. The shooting range stretched across the gray surface of the moon. It was a simple setup, 10 targets at different distances. The closest was 100 meters away. The farthest was 2,000 meters. Each target was the size of a dinner plate. At 2,000 meters, a dinner plate looked like a small dot, almost invisible. Hana stood at the firing line and looked down the range. The thin atmosphere of the moon made the air clear. There was no wind, no distractions, just her, the targets, and the rifle in her hands. They had provided weapons for both contestants. They were strange rifles made of dark alien metal. Hana held hers carefully, feeling its weight. It was lighter than she expected. The trigger was smooth under her finger. "These are hunting rifles," a soldier explained. "They are perfectly balanced. No shooter can blame the weapon for their failure." Hana nodded. She raised the rifle and looked through the scope. The image was clear and sharp. Good. Dorn walked up beside her. He held his rifle like it was part of his body. His yellow eyes were focused and cold. "The rules are simple," Dorn said. 10 targets, 10 shots each. The highest score wins. If there is a tie, we shoot again until someone misses. Hana nodded again. She did not speak. There was nothing to say. The soldiers gathered on one side. The humans gathered on the other. Commander Ho stood with his arms crossed, his face calm. Lieutenant was beside him, her hands clenched tight. "I will go first," Dorn announced, "to show you how it is done." He walked to the firing position. He raised his rifle slowly. He took a deep breath. Then he fired. The sound was sharp and clean. 200 meters away, the first target exploded. Dorn did not pause. He shifted his aim and fired again. The second target, 300 meters away, shattered. He fired a third time, a fourth time, a fifth time. Each shot was perfect. Each target was destroyed. Dorn moved with the smooth grace of someone who had done this a million times. His body did not shake. His breathing did not change. He was a machine made of flesh and bone. The sixth target fell, the seventh, the eighth. The ninth target was at 1,500 meters. Dorn paused for just a moment. Then he fired. The target exploded. Now only the final target remained, 2,000 meters. At that distance, even the slightest error would cause a miss. A heartbeat at the wrong moment, a small shake in the hands. Any tiny mistake would send the shot wide. Dorn took a deep breath. He held it. His finger tightened on the trigger. The rifle cracked. For a long moment, nothing happened. The distant target was too far to see clearly. Then one of the soldiers checked a scanner and nodded. "Direct hit, perfect center." The soldiers cheered. Dorn lowered his rifle and turned to face the humans. His yellow eyes were bright with victory. 10 shots, he said. 10 hits. This is what 300 cycles of practice looks like. He looked at Hana. "Your turn, old woman. Try not to embarrass yourself too much." Hana said nothing. She walked to the firing position. The rifle felt good in her hands now. She had spent the last few minutes learning its weight, its balance. It was different from the rifles she had used on Earth, but the basic principles were the same. Point, breathe, squeeze. She raised the rifle. The first target was 100 meters away. Child's play. Hana did not even need to think. Her body knew what to do. 64 years of muscle memory took over. She fired. The target shattered. She shifted her aim. The second target, 300 meters, still easy. Her grandfather had made her shoot cans at this distance when she was 10. She fired. The target exploded. Hana moved through the first 5 targets like she was dancing. Each shot was smooth and natural. No hesitation, no doubt, just pure, clean skill. The soldiers had stopped cheering. They were watching now, their yellow eyes narrowed. Something was wrong. This old woman was not struggling. She was not afraid. She was shooting like she had been born with a rifle in her hands. The 6th target fell, the 7th. Hana paused for the 8th target. It was at 1,000 meters. This was where the challenge truly began. At this distance, small errors became big misses. At this distance, experience mattered more than strength. She took a breath, let it out slowly. Her heartbeat was steady, 60 beats per minute, the same as always. Some people's hearts raced when they faced pressure. Hana's heart had learned to stay calm. She fired. The target shattered. The 9th target, 1,500 meters. Dorn had paused here too, but Hana did not pause long. She knew her limits. She knew exactly what she could do. She fired. Another hit. Now the final target waited, 2,000 meters away, almost invisible even through the scope. This was the shot that would decide everything. Hana lowered her rifle for a moment. She looked up at the gray sky of the moon. Somewhere up there, the horizon floated in space. Her daughter was waiting. Her were waiting. The whole ship was counting on her. But she did not think about that. She could not think about that. Pressure was the enemy of precision. Fear was the enemy of skill. Instead, she thought about her grandfather. She remembered his voice, calm and patient. Do not think about hitting, think about the process. Do what you have done a million times. Trust your body, trust your training. Hana raised the rifle. She looked through the scope. The target was there, small and distant, a dot at the edge of vision. She placed the crosshairs on the center of the dot. She took a breath, let it out halfway. Her body became still. Her mind became empty. In this moment, she was not an old woman. She was not a florist. She was not a grandmother. She was just a shooter. She had always been a shooter. From the moment her grandfather put a rifle in her hands, this was what she was meant to be. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked against her shoulder. The sound echoed across the empty moon. For 3 seconds, no one moved. No one breathed. Everyone watched the distant target. Then the soldier with the scanner made a sound. It was a strange sound, almost like choking. "Report," Dorn demanded. "Did she miss?" The soldier looked at him. His yellow eyes were wide. "No," the soldier said. "She did not miss. She hit the exact center, directly in the middle of your shot mark." Silence. Commander Ho let out a slow breath. Lieutenant made a small sound of disbelief. Hana lowered her rifle. 10 shots, she said quietly. 10 hits. This is what 64 years of devotion looks like. Dorn stared at her. His face was hard to read. Anger, confusion, respect. "Impossible," one of the soldiers muttered. "She is an elder, she is human. How can she match the war chief?" But the scanner did not lie. 10 targets, 10 perfect hits. Hana had equaled Dorn's score exactly. Which meant, by the rules of the contest, they would have to shoot again. "Another round," Dorn said. His voice was cold. "We shoot until one of us misses." Hana nodded. She raised her rifle again. The targets were reset. The range was cleared. This time they would shoot together, side by side, shot for shot, until one of them failed. The first target appeared. Both rifles cracked at the same moment. Both targets fell. The second target, both hits. The third, the fourth, the fifth. Round after round they continued. 10 shots, 20, 30, neither of them missed, neither of them wavered. The soldiers watched in disbelief. The humans watched in hope. Commander Ho watched with a small smile on his face. He had known. He had known from the moment he saw Hana in that meeting room. He had seen the steadiness in her hands, the calm in her eyes. He had known she would not lose. Because she could not lose, missing was not something Hana did, not anymore, not after 64 years of practice. The war chief was good, the war chief was even great. But Hana was something else entirely. She was perfect. The 47th round ended the same as all the others. Both shots hit, both targets fell, perfect and equal. But then came the 48th. War Chief Dorn raised his rifle. His arms were tired now. 300 cycles of experience, but even muscles had limits. The shooting had gone on for over an hour. Shot after shot, target after target. He aimed at the distant mark, 2,000 meters. He had hit this shot 47 times already. He could do it again. He squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked. The shot flew true, but not true enough. It struck the edge of the target, a hit but not perfect. The scanner beeped. Edge hit, the soldier reported. His voice was strange, uncertain. Dorn lowered his rifle slowly. He looked at the weapon in his hands like it had betrayed him. In 300 cycles, he had never missed. And now, in front of his soldiers, in front of the humans, his perfect record was broken. Hana raised her rifle. Her arms were tired too. 73 years old, and she had been shooting for over an hour. Her muscles burned. Her eyes ached. But her hands did not shake. They never shook. She looked through the scope at the distant target. She breathed in, breathed out, found her center. She thought of her grandfather's voice. Do it until you cannot miss. She squeezed the trigger. The rifle kicked. The shot flew. 2 seconds of silence. Then the scanner beeped. Direct hit, the soldier said. Perfect center. The army stood in stunned silence. Their war chief, their greatest warrior, had been defeated, not by a human soldier, not by a military champion, by an old woman who grew flowers. Hana lowered her rifle slowly. Her body wanted to collapse. Her muscles screamed for rest. But she stood straight and tall, the way her grandfather had taught her. Commander Ho walked forward. His face was calm, but his eyes were bright. The contest is finished, he announced. By the rules agreed upon, the Horizon and its crew are free. This system remains neutral territory. The soldiers looked at each other. They looked at their war chief. They did not know what to do. Dorn stood very still. His yellow eyes were fixed on Hana. There was no anger in them now. There was something else, something that might have been wonder. Finally he spoke. How? It was a single word, but it carried 1,000 questions. Hana looked up at him. Despite everything, she smiled. It was a kind smile, the smile of a grandmother. How what? She asked. How did you do this? Dorn stepped closer to her. You are old. You are civilian. You are human. Your species has been in space for only 200 years. They have ruled the stars for 10,000 cycles. He shook his head slowly. I have trained every day of my life. I have practiced with the finest weapons. I have competed against the best shooters from 100 worlds. And you grew flowers. I also shot targets, Hana said simply. But how? Dorn repeated. How can a civilian match a warrior? How can a florist defeat a war chief? Commander Ho stepped forward. May I answer that question, war chief? Dorn looked at him. After a moment he nodded. Ho walked to stand beside Hana. He looked at the gathered soldiers, at their ships, at their weapons, at all the signs of their great military empire. You made a mistake, Ho said. A mistake that many species make when they meet humans. What mistake? You assumed that skill belongs only to warriors. Ho shook his head. You saw our soldiers and thought they were our most dangerous people. You saw our civilians and thought they were weak. He put his hand on Hana's shoulder. On Earth, we do not separate life that way. Our civilians are not helpless. Our warriors are not the only ones with skills. A farmer might be a champion chess player. A teacher might be an expert in martial arts. A florist might be the finest marksman in her country. Dorn was silent, listening. Shooting is not just for soldiers on Earth, Ho continued. It is a sport, a hobby, a tradition passed from grandparents to millions of people do it, ordinary people, people who have never fought in a war. He looked at Hana. You asked me to send my best sharpshooter. I could have sent a soldier, but I did not. I sent the best person available, and on a human ship that person might be anyone. Dorn looked at the humans gathered behind their commander, young and old, men and women, soldiers and civilians. How many of them can shoot? He asked quietly. Ho smiled. Almost all of them. Some are better than others, but most of them could hit a target at 100 meters without much trouble. Even the children. By the time human children are 10 years old, many of them have already learned to shoot. It is part of our culture, part of who we are. Dorn turned to look at his own soldiers. The mighty army, trained warriors, every one of them. The finest fighters their empire could produce. And they had just been beaten by a grandmother. I thought humans were weak, Dorn said slowly. Your bodies are soft, your lives are short, your technology is young. Everything about your species seemed fragile. He looked at Hana. But you are not fragile, are you? Not inside, not where it matters. Hana shook her head. Humans may seem weak. We are small. We die easily. We have not been in space very long, but we do one thing better than any species in the galaxy. What is that? We never stop practicing. Hana held up her hands. These hands have fired 2 million shots. 2 million. I have spent 64 years becoming good at one thing, and I am not special. Millions of humans do the same. They practice their skills until those skills become perfect. She lowered her hands. You have ruled the stars for 10,000 cycles. But in those 10,000 cycles, how many hours did you spend practicing one single skill? How many days? How many years? Dorn did not answer. He did not need to. They both knew the truth. They were conquerors. They spent their time fighting wars, building empires, ruling worlds. They were good at many things, but they had never spent 64 years doing just one thing over and over until that one thing became effortless. That was the human advantage, not strength, not technology, not numbers. Focus, devotion, the willingness to practice something forever just to be a little bit better. Dorn was quiet for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed. It was a small bow, just a lowering of his head, but from a war chief it meant everything. I give you respect, Hana of Earth, Dorn said. You have shown me something today, something I will not forget. Hana bowed back. Thank you, war chief. You are a fine shooter, you should be proud. Dorn made a sound that might have been a laugh. Proud, I lost to a florist. You lost to 64 years of practice, Hana corrected. There is no shame in that. Dorn straightened up. He looked at Commander Ho. Human Commander, I will honor our agreement. Your ship is free. This system will remain neutral, and I will speak to the Council about your species. What will you tell them? Ho asked. Dorn looked at the small group of humans, at the old woman who had beaten him, at the soldiers and civilians standing together. I will tell them to be careful, Dorn said. I will tell them that humans are not what they seem. I will tell them that on Earth, every person is dangerous. He turned and walked toward his shuttle. His soldiers followed him in silence. As the ships lifted off, Commander Ho put his hand on Hana's shoulder again. You did it, he said quietly. You saved us all. Hana watched the ships disappear into the sky. She was tired, so tired, but she was also proud. I just did what my grandfather taught me, she said. I did it until I could not miss. Lieutenant approached them. Her eyes were wet. Hana, I owe you an apology. I doubted you. I thought we should send a soldier. Hana smiled at her. You did not know. Most people do not understand. They see an old woman and think she is weak. They see a civilian and think she is helpless. She looked up at the stars. But humans are strange creatures. We take hobbies and turn them into obsessions. We take skills and practice them until they become art. We never stop learning. We never stop improving. She turned and began walking back toward the shuttle. They have ruled the stars for 10,000 cycles, she said, but they have not met anything like us before. They have not met a species where every person, even the old ones, even the peaceful ones, can be dangerous. She stopped and looked back at them. That is what humans are. We are a species of specialists, of devotees, of people who spend their whole lives becoming masters of small things. She smiled one last time. And that, I think, is why we will survive, no matter what the galaxy throws at us. Then she walked into the shuttle, ready to go home, ready to rest, ready to see her daughter and her. Tomorrow, maybe, she would find a place to practice shooting again. After all, 64 years was not enough. You could always get better.